Well, welcome back to Spring-Heels Modules. I hope that you will excuse my voice today. I'm dealing with a bit of a cold, so you'll have to excuse the occasional sniffle, but I wanted to get a little further with this street and show off a few of the modules that we have not looked at yet. So I think where we left off last time was talking about layers. I mentioned at the end of the last episode that I would normally put the south side of the street on a separate layer just so that I could turn it off easier and get an unobstructed view of what was going on the north side of the street. So someone in the comments asked how that was done, so I thought I'd quickly show you what I meant. So if you go up to View and Layers, or Control L, and you can make a new layer, and I'm just going to call this South Street, south side of the street. The star here tells you which layer you're currently using, which one is active. What I'm going to do is select everything I've put on the south side of the street here. So I draw a big brush around everything. Select inside the brush, and then I'm going to right click and move to layer South Street. And now, if I get the layer window back up again, where to go? Control L. If you turn this off, then you see you can just get rid of that side of the street. So it can make things easier if you put different things on different layers. I think what I'll also do while I'm at it is put this sky brush on that layer as well. Move to layer South Street so that when I hide that now I can see the other side of the street without any obstructions. Okay, so let's finish off this side of the street. What I'm going to do is just quickly show you a few other things. I want to use as many of the modules as possible so that you get a sense of what they can do. If you remember last time, I cloned this entire building and put it on the south side of the street, changed some skins and rearranged a couple modules just to make it look a bit different. There's something else you can do to help things look different. There are little add-ons that jut out from buildings. I'll show you those. If you go to Create Model, into the Modules Exterior Timber 01 set. One example is this bay window. There are two bay windows. One's meant to be floating and one is meant to rest on the ground. Although I guess it could be on the second floor as well. There is stuff underneath, but we're going to take this one and we're going to put it on this wall here that currently doesn't have anything on it. Now these are not built to snap necessarily, you just have to position them to the spot on the wall where you think they look good. I'm going to move this up a little bit and maybe come forward just so that the wood doesn't clip through, something like that. You could maybe shift it over and get very picky about where you want to put it, but putting a simple thing like that on the side of a building, not only does it make it look a little bit more interesting from the side because you have things that stick out, it also helps make it look different from other buildings that might have a similar construction. So let's do a little bit more. I'll leave that there. Probably should turn that so that it's off since all the other windows are off, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So let's clone this wall. And I said before that it's not very interesting to have a perfectly straight street. So I want things that come out into the player's space. So I'm going to take this, use the rotate tool, and I'm going to hide everything but those just so that I can see that they're lining up reasonably well. Good. Clone this one again, put this here. I'm going to make what's going to look like a little tower, the edge of a little tower perhaps that sticks out into the street. And we'll do this and rotate this about like, not quite that much, but like that. Obviously I would be more careful with these if this was for a real map, but this is mostly just to show you what the modules can do. So then we're going to just select these. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to move them up for a second layer. And because this is a tower, I'm not going to worry about having them jut out. I'm just going to leave them overlapping a little bit there, which will look fine. And we'll put one more layer on top. We'll make this tower fairly tall. Something kind of like that. If we unhide everything. And you can see that we now have what looks like a tower. Now it doesn't look the best right now, partially because we've used the same wall everywhere, which we don't really want to do. So I'm going to, for towers, this is a stone tower. Probably it's not going to have a lot of timber bracing on it. So let's just take all these and turn them into wall number 4, which is the one that is empty on the inside. And then we'll select that, select all of the wall brushes, and do it all at once. And they look like that. Now you can see that there's this gap here we have to seal, and that's where the corner pieces come in. So we'll take one of the corner pieces we haven't used yet. This is the second tall. It's a second story bracer. It's 2 stories. And we'll put that down onto the ground. Move it into position so that it's going to cover the ends of both. You can decide how far you want it to stick out. I'm okay with it sticking out a fair bit. We will clone another one, put that over here so it does the same thing. And then for the top layer, we can just create another spacer to go on top. We'll just pick a simple one. Player's not going to see up here very much anyway. And we'll just have it rest on top of that foot. Again, you can select 2 things, and Control-Shift-H will hide everything but those 2 things. I find that useful sometimes when you want to get things out of the way and just make sure they're lined up. So we'll do something like that. Shift-H unhides everything. I'll clone this, move this over there. And then we have a pretty good tower sticking out into the road, just to give, now obviously the road's not going to continue perfectly straight there. We'll have to do twists and turns, but it'll make the road look a little bit more organic. Now again, here we've got a bit of a gap, so we need to do something there. And since it's only a single floor, we're just going to use a single spacer, single corner spacer. Let's use the one with feet on it and floor it. There, and position it. Let's hide everything but the 2 with the gap so we can position it easily. And we can do something like that. I don't think it's quite floored properly. Yeah, we could do that. There. And now that gap is hidden. Now, depending on how particular you want it to be, you might want to also hide that gap, but the fact that this hits with a little bit of the wood showing, I'm okay with that. Now, depending on the angles, you would have to decide whether your player is going to be able to climb up here at all. One consequence of using these modules is that they have a lot of wood. All of these pieces are actually textured as wood, which means if you give your player rope arrows, it's very difficult to keep them from climbing all over the entire map. But if you decide that your player is going to get up here, then you probably will want to put a side on this building just to hide it in case they can see through that gap. But from the street level, they won't notice that. As far as a roof, there's a few options. You could, if you want to, just build a cone brush to go on top of that and texture it with a roof texture. You could do something quite fancy, although again, from the street, the player is going to not see this very much. But just so that you get an idea of what can be done, let's take a roof texture without a window, and we'll put it here. Put it up on the top. Now this is going to stick through our skybox, which means we will have to do a little trick with that later. Again, I'm going to hide everything but this just so that I can line it up properly. That will be enough. And then I will do the same thing to these 2. I'll rotate them to, whoops, not like that. Rotate to match the same angle. And it's a little harder to line these up because you don't get a perfect view here, but if I look at that, it's not a perfect alignment, but builders back then weren't perfect either, so as long as there's no gaps, I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then we'll put another one here. Now all these overlap would not be quite. So then we'll put another one over here. Make sure it sticks out about the same amount as the others. And there you go. Now, is that overkill? Maybe. But it actually doesn't look that bad from this angle. The way these overlap is pretty believable. It's just at the moment, if we left this portal sky, the tops would be cut off. There is a solution to that, and it's to turn this into what's called a caulk texture. If you make this caulk has the great ability of allowing models to show through. It does not cut models off. Any model that intersects this will be visible. You can see the whole thing. And yet the caulk both seals, so there will be no leaks, and it shows the skybox. So in a way, it's like a skybox texture that has the added benefit of not cutting things off, which can be quite useful. So, so there's our little tower. It's a little boring at the moment, so why don't we put some things on here to make it interesting. Again, flat walls are boring, things that stick out are a little bit more interesting. So I'll introduce you to the extenders. There are two little, I had no idea what to call these. I called them extenders because they stick out from the wall. I guess they could be considered large bay windows or something. I have no idea what they're called. But there's two different versions, and they are meant to stick on the side of a wall. They jut out into the street, and you can do something like this. So I rest the supports on the supports of the tower, make sure that it's back far enough that it's actually not going to leave a gap there, and then you can do something like that. So it looks like there's an extra room sticking off there, and that also, if I had that, I probably wouldn't have to do a roof up there because you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. And these have all the same skins. If you wanted to make this a stone texture, you could. I like the idea that this is maybe an addition that was added on later. They broke through some of the tower and added some extra space. So that will add a little bit of visual interest there. You could do more of those. We could put some windows on here. In fact, let's do that because it's easy. We don't have any windows. Sometimes I like to just grab window models I've used somewhere else because it's a little easier to do that than it is to go to the choose model screen, but I think I'll use the covered window for this. So we'll put one there and maybe one on the other side. There. And that makes our tower nice and visually interesting. It also sticks out into the road a little bit so that we have some organic stuff, and the player has an opportunity to see around things, or it also gives them a nice little corner to hide in there. So there's that. Okay, so let's continue on then. Let's quickly fill in the rest of the space that I've got here. So I am going to grab these. Oops, I don't want the wall behind it. What else did I select? There we go. Space, move this over here. And that will take us just about to the end of the street. Let's line it up with this, so I will hide everything else. And there we go. We could, if we overlap these enough, you might even be able to get away without using a corner space there. You'd have to see how it looks in game. But you could do something like this. Now I don't want this to look like it's all one continuous building, so let's change the skin on these. And just for the heck of it, we'll grab a... Oh, that's no skin. Okay, so let's delete property. Delete and delete. Okay, so we're back to this. Now, I think what I will do is show you how to use arches. So there are a couple different arches with this set. And I'll show you how they work by taking this and moving it back in. I'm going to take these two walls, copy and paste them to make two corners. And go like that approximately. So what looks like now we have sort of a recessed doorway, which is another quick way to create some visual interest and not have just a flat wall. And then I'm going to grab an archway. So create model, and the archways are near the top. There is an arch that has a top on it, and then an arch face, which does not. I'm going to use the one that does. And I'm going to floor it and align it. Now what it does, these are meant to hide corners. by default. So I'm going to put those over top of the corner pieces, over top of the gaps of these. And now what we have is what looks like sort of little recessed doorway. You notice that here there's a little bit of wood showing, and here there's not. That's because this is a little bit off center. Now I actually can't get wood on both sides the way that it is, so I'm just going to move this one over slightly because that wood helps hide the corner. There's nothing that looks faker in an engine than a perfect 90-degree corner, and so you always want to have something in there to kind of break that up. You could put a corner piece in there as well, but that's overkill. I think this works fine. So when the player goes in here, they will see this here. Now actually, that goes right into the door. So I am going to change. I could do two things. I could move this up a little bit, but I'm going to change this door because we've used it a few times already. We'll use one that doesn't have steps. So the door will be lower, and then that won't be a problem. So we can do something like that. And there's our first level. Let me show you those other bay windows that we mentioned. Create model. Bay window 02, and that's the one that's meant to kind of sit on the ground. So you can put that there, back it up to the wall, and just position it to taste. And I find that they actually look pretty good when you put one on each side. Now, I don't know if it's sitting on, is it sitting on the ground? No. I keep flooring it and it hits this brush, which is raising it a little bit. So that would be something to watch out for. Okay, then we put those on either side. And there you go. You've got quite an interesting little shop front here. You can hang a sign out front or do whatever you want. I'm going to hide these, select these, just so we can copy them and unhide everything. And I'll move this up here. Now, again, this could come forward more, but there's no room for any real supports here. So I'm actually not going to have this come forward very much. Let me just hide this. Take a look at these two by themselves. Oops. I want this to come out just a bit, but not enough that it looks like it needs supports. And this one, bring it forward just the same, and there we go. We'll hit clone and fill in the gap. There we go. And we have a very nice looking shop front here. It just needs a roof. Now, what I thought I would do is put an optional way for the player to progress through the city. If we cut a hole in this portal sky here, we could have the player climb up onto the roof and kind of go through a little kind of a thieves highway kind of thing here. So we may do that. But I just want to get a sense for what the street looks like. So there we go. Now this will show in game. You'll be able to see those. I'm not crazy about that roof, actually. I'd probably do something else there. But so if you wanted to have a passage through here that the player could kind of get up across through the roofs and through this skybox, this is how I would do it. There were a lot of ways to do that, but we'll use the one that uses as many new modules as possible. So let's create one of the combo modules. So if you notice, there's two modules here called combo. And what they are is a building pre-made that has three sides visible. Now this is not as flexible as using the modules to piece this together. I mean, you could create this by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different wall textures, the roof spacer on the back. You could do this manually, but it would just take a lot longer. So I find that this is handy to place in behind other buildings or to fill in a skyline that the player's not going to get a chance to get to. I probably wouldn't use them this way if I wasn't trying to show you how they work. So let's take the larger of the two. We'll select that, we'll rotate it, select the walls we want it to rest on. Bring it down here. We could have this jut out a little bit more, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So we position it like that, I think. Good. And so what this will do is provide the the side wall, essentially, for where the player is going to go through. So since the player is going to get up here, we're going to have to put another wall on the side of this tower. So let's pick a wall that's already, that we don't have to rotate manually. And we'll move that up here. Again, let's hide everything but that so that we can position it. And that should be good. Move this forward a little bit like that. Then we'll have a gap to fill there, but we'll worry about that in a moment. We also probably will need to put a roof piece there, but again, we'll worry about that in a moment. So then here, what we could do is put just a brush. I would probably plan this out a bit more if I were doing this for real, but this is sort of just a map as you go. See what ideas come up as you go with this. We'll use that wood texture. We'll rotate that so it fits. And now it looks like we've got a little platform up here. And then we'll take this portal sky and we'll clip it. So these are the three things on the sides that determine how big our doorway needs to be for the player. So we will just clip this here. And on the sides, we will clip it here. And let's go back a little bit from the wall just to make sure nothing pokes through. We'll do it there. It's better to have a little bit too big than too small. And then what we can do is take this portal sky, extend it back as far as we want the players to go, and essentially this is another hallway we've created. And then you can do this to hollow it out, delete the one that's facing towards you, and now we have another hallway. And once the player gets here, they'll drop down into a new street. So then it's just a matter of filling up the sides and the bottom here. You can decide how far we want that to go with other interesting or not so interesting walls. And it's the same concept as filling in the other hallway. And so if you get used to doing that, if you get used to the idea of all of these as hallways, then you'll, I think, have an easier time creating things that you can visportal. I always say visportal, I don't, it's the Latin in me. And the player will still get a very nice sense of being in a full environment. Let's make this caulk as well because we want the roofs to not be cut off. Eventually we could just make everything caulk, and that's probably what I would do. Okay, so you'd fill this in, but I think you guys get the idea. Let's throw something. The player's going to need something to climb up on, so let's use a model with an awning. So the window with the awning, this awning provides a perfect mantling point for the player. And we'll put one over here so it looks balanced. And we'd have to put some crates or something there probably to help them get up, but this becomes a perfectly viable way for them to cross the street over to the other side. And if this becomes a little bit plain, I'll show you one other thing you can put on the side. Not everything that fits under the Timber 01 module set is in this folder. I mentioned before that there's some chimneys that are not. There's also some windows that are not. If you go to Windows, or at least one, scroll down, oh, there it is, Timber 01 bay window. I put this one, again, figuring out where to put things was a bit of a challenge, because on the one hand, you want to have your module set all contained within one folder and easy to find. On the other hand, if the mapper is just looking for windows, you want them to be able to find windows fairly easily without having to dig through all the module sets. So I did not achieve a totally consistent look there, but this seemed like such a generic window that it could go in the Windows folder. But we'll take that, we'll move it out to the front here, and place it on the side. Again, hide everything else, just so that this looks a little bit more interesting and a little bit less flat. There, good enough. So that is one side of the street done now. complete with an alternate route for the player to get up and get through above the rooftops. Okay, so I wasn't completely satisfied with this little bit here, so I went back and just added a couple things. I thought I'd show you what I put here. Remember how I said that corners, straight corners, are not very appealing? This was kind of a pretty solid corner, so what I did is I took one of these. This is a model that is meant to be used at the edge of a roof. So if you put one of these 128 roofs, you can see how the edge of the roof just stops right here, because you might want to have a peak right beside it. But if this is on the edge of a building, you might want to have this come down a little bit more so it overlaps, and that's what these two roof edges are, edge left and edge right. They also make for decent awnings. So I put one of those here, and then to hide the gap between this and the brush, I've put a horizontal spacer, which is just like a normal piece of timber. So when the player gets up here, instead of seeing a brush corner, which is not very attractive, they will see the edge of a piece of wood, which looks a lot better. I also added a couple little details in here, added a window, changed up the wall a little bit, this is actually an extender. I used it here just because even in a small hallway, you don't want perfectly straight walls. You want things that stick out into the player's space, just because it makes it look more organic and more interesting to move through, as well as more interesting to look at. And so this has kind of jutted out into there. I would probably do something here that sticks out as well eventually, depending how far that goes. And up here I put a roof that spans 3 modules, so the largest of the 3 roofs. Now it doesn't have a side on it, and I suspect if this was going to be an actual map, I would have to put a side on it using brushes, but we'll see when we look at it in game how that looks. So that, I also added some barrels down here to give the player a chance to mantle up there. So that's basically it. We are now done that side of the street. We have a little bit already. If I go back to my layers window, turn this on, we already have that much of that side of the street. So we really just have a little bit to finish off, and then I'll show you how to do the actual street itself. There are modules to create the path of the street, but I think I'll save that for the next video because this one's about long enough and my voice is starting to suffer, I think, from this cold. So I will end it here and we will continue on next episode.